Morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome all the participants to the conference Main Trends in Maritime Transport and Logistics. I welcome all the speakers and which are here today to share with us their knowledge and vast experience. We have to publicly express our thanks to the HEA brands support to the HEA ship project. Also, I want to thank the DGBM support and the successful partnership with Mavlo, SA Consult, VTMR, and Reykjavik University School of Technology in this e-ship project. Internally, I want to thank Professors Fernando Cruz Gonçalves and Manuela Batista as coordinators of this project from the NEIT side. It is well known that the shipping industry is critical to the global economy, carrying around 80% of world trade volume and 70% of its value, while accounting for approximately 2.9% worldwide carbon dioxide emissions. Shipping industry is presently facing important challenges. One is decarbonization, with initiatives of EMO, greenhouse gas reduction, with the specific and demanding targets for 2030-2050. The shipping industry has signed the commitment to decarbonization. In this challenging transition to 2050 low carbon global fleet, interim solutions will be crucial for transition. The state's transition with a focus on retrofitting existing vessels and fuel substitution could offer valuable time for deployment of decarbonization technologies, while allowing supply chains to become commercially available. Another challenge is digitalization. New developments in the field of artificial intelligence, big data analytics, blockchain technology, IoT, and automation are becoming increasingly relevant for maritime transport. Trade documentation is a paper-intensive and resource-consuming process. Digitalizing trade documentation is an important step that can avoid unnecessary costs, save time, and enable trade. It can also improve supply chain resilience and help to mitigate inevitable future disruptions. I'm addressing here just an example, a very recent publication from McKinsey and company, which demonstrated that adopting electronic bill of lading could lead to savings of 6.5 billion in direct costs in 1 year. The objectives of e-ship projects and the communications which will be presented in this conference today are in line with these challenges and are extremely relevant for the maritime transport. I invite you all to attend this conference, starting with a presentation which will be given by Dr. Richard Stakes, from shipping consultant from UK. Thank you very much.
For the topic, dry bulk markets, we call Richard Stokes from the United Kingdom.
Good morning, everybody. It's very nice to see real human beings in a real live environment. So thank you all for attending this morning. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the dry bulk markets. So I'll start off just mentioning the time charter rates we experienced from last year, 2021. So obviously there was quite a lot of inventory restocking after the COVID lockdowns and fragmentation to the various supply chains across the world that we saw. So just here you see on the top there, four major sectors in the dry bulk. I'm sure you're all very familiar with those. Can you hear me okay? Is everything cool? Yeah. So on the top left-hand side, the dark blue is the Cape-size vessels. These are very sensitive to the China trade because they're principally carrying iron ore and coking coal into the Chinese steel industry. They tend to be between 150 and 200,000 deadweight. Below that, you see the light blue line is the Panamax. These are basically grain ships, 70 to 80,000 deadweight. And then moving across to the grey, the Supramax tend to be 40 to 60,000 deadweight. And then finally, the small workhorses, the handy sizes, are 20 to 30,000 deadweight. So if you look at that chart, clearly it's just a gradual uptrend. The Cape-size vessels were the ones that enjoyed the better returns. You can see there on the left-hand axis is US dollars per day, which is the rate that the cargo owner must pay the ship owner to transport his goods. And these Cape-size rates roaring away up to about $90,000 a day, driven, as I say, pretty much by the China trade. So that all fed through into a strongly rising Baltic Dry Index. The BDI is basically an index compilation for the key individual trade routes in the dry bulk market. And you can see it rising nearly sixfold, just on 6,000 during the course of last year. So a lot of this was real demand coming back, but a lot of it also was, as I mentioned, these fragmented supply chains. Meaning a lot of ships got caught in the roads waiting to berth in ports. The ports got very congested. The inland hinterlands couldn't distribute the goods quick enough. So there was always this issue about what was going to happen after some of these very high congestion levels started to come off. So this chart, it's a little bit busy, but you can basically you see that little yellow dotted line. You see pre-COVID here, it's just flatlining at around 16, 17%. And then once we get here on all four sectors, you can see how it's rising quite sharply for all of these four quartiles. And particularly the Supramax is the dramatic one, where you have over 20% of the fleets essentially tied up doing business, so net reduction to available tonnage for future demand. So what happens? Well, unfortunately, this is what happened. A complete return journey on the BDI from the 6,000 mark down to around the 1,000 mark. So this is just giving some background in terms of correlations. You'll see here over a 6-year period, basically the BDI tends to trump iron ore prices. They're on the right-hand side axis in dollars per ton. You can see how they peaked up to about 250 before coming back to this trading range of 75 to 100 in correlation with the BDI on the left-hand side. The BDI being the dark. Honing in on the same sort of correlation and relationship, this is representative of one of the prime routes for Cape-size iron ore from Brazil into China. And again, with the BDI here in the red, you can see how it's tracking essentially freight rates for Cape-size Brazil, China, which again just tends to illustrate the difference of China demand on Cape-size rates. So just as we were suffering these declining freight rates, unfortunately we had in February with Russia invading Ukraine. You'll see on the left-hand side here the Bloomberg Commodity Spot Index. That's the peak GFC in 2008. And you can see it's already breaking out on a 20-year basis, and then it's spiking up as a result of everything that resulted after the 26th of February. We can see here the individual commodities and how basically over the ensuing 3 months they spiked. You see coal, recently a dirty cargo coming back in with a 50% price rise, and then possibly more obviously Brent at 27%, and soft commodities with 28.5%. So here, this is representative of basically how dependent the EU is on imports from Russia and Ukraine, second behind basically China. And here again, we see the import dependency on certain key commodities, coal, fertilizers, and steel, at around 35 to 40%. So this next slide is basically illustrative of some of the changing trade patterns that occurred as a result of various import bans from Russia. So back to coal, as I was mentioning, you see here how there's a huge spike in imports as a result of the energy crisis in Europe, soaring prices for natural gas and for diesel fuel. And how does that translate? Well, it translates into new sources. So formerly we had a short haul trade from Russia, from the Black Sea into Europe. Now you're having to go to South Africa to bring in these coal imports. South Africa very quickly, from a very minimal and unimportant 5%, is jumping up to 35%. So where does this leave us now? It leaves us basically with these rates just declining on a gradual downtrend. We see the Capesize, which is the most volatile sector, coming back down to just $5,000 per day. And basically reflective of China, obviously closed at the moment on the zero tolerance COVID policy. Basically not really producing very much steel at all. Iron imports down. We have a low property crisis at the current moment. And also this coincided with a bit of greening due to the Beijing Winter Olympics back in January, February. So a little bit of recovery recently, but gradual downtrend overall. So where do we find ourselves now? Well, if Ukraine war persists, then we're going to see more commodity price volatility and changes in trading patterns. We had the Federal Reserve embarking on this really aggressive monetary raising policy, because we've ever seen in financial history, in combination with problems in Europe on the energy crisis and China, as I mentioned. So that's all causing a reduction in demand. More talk now about recession fears rather than just stagnation, which is what we thought we were looking at a few months ago. We all know about inflation rampant across the world, mainly from the supply side, and now we're even starting to see a bit of the currency contagion. With the collapse of the pound back to $1 we know what's happening with the euro. So it's all causing a little bit of instability at the same time as we're seeing the DEI back below 1,000. And having shaded that nice chart of the commodity price increases, that 35 to 40% has now come back down again to par as these prices do retreat. This is just a chart to illustrate on the left-hand side. This is basically, these are the annual cycles for the BDI. This grey one is 2021, representing a peak I showed you on the BDI before. This dark blue one is where we are so far in 2022 through to the end of August. That's just a forecast. But what it's gradually suggesting is that basically we've seen most of the action in Q2, Q3 has been a bit neutral, and with these macro parameters probably suggesting Q4 could be a bit bearish. So looking forward to 2023, 2024, actually it's not all negative. I've mentioned already that while net demand may drop off, you get these longer steaming patterns for the ships having to source their commodities further afield. if we can get some of the dynamics on the supply side fixed, think about labour and output, a little bit of incremental demand at the margin is going to have quite a strong positive impact. China, with the Congress next month, we were all anticipating some form of stimulus over the previous few months, and obviously with COVID that's not coming through, but I suspect it wouldn't be too far away. So any easing of the current conditions we find ourselves facing now in terms of sanctions and tariffs would obviously bolster the demand side. And we also have basically these new green shipping regulations coming in, which is a big thing for shipping as an industry. The EEDI, the Energy Efficiency Design Index, which is obviously to ship construction, and an operational metric, carbon intensity indicator, basically all going to put pressure on the older ships, maybe even render them uneconomic, given they're reducing their speeds, and I think they may be forced out of the fleet, particularly with high bunker prices. So just to follow up with the next 3 slides, more about the supply side, which historically has been probably the biggest problem that shipping has had to face. In essence, from the top level down, dry bulk, seaborne trade, and fleet growth are pretty much in kilter. And on the order book, it is actually, as I'm going to show you now, the lowest for about 17 years, which actually is quite encouraging. So here we have on the left, you can see that we had supply growth, fleet growth of around 4%, coming back to about 2%, forecast for 2023. On the demand side, obviously COVID related there, inventory restocking bounce back. And here, this is looking not too bad, although it has to be said with the IMF sort of paring back their growth forecasts in certain areas of the world, maybe those figures come back a bit. But overall, that is not a bad supply-demand balance. This is just illustrating here, you have the new building deliveries of the dark blue. The light blue is demolition. These are the vessels that are forced out of the fleet and go for scrapping. And these little red dots are where you have actually the net additions, given that you have to take that obviously away from that. So again, you take out here, it's at 2022 and 23 looking quite good, a little bit more 2024 historically, that is not very much at all. And then this is my last slide. And I think this is really quite interesting, kind of summarizes where we are at the moment. So this is basically the dry bulk order book as a percentage of the fleet. So if you go back to 2010, it's basically saying that you have 64% of the fleet on order, i.e. 2/3 of existing ships. That's a huge, huge number. And you can see basically how these figures have come down over this decade to where we are now. And we're at this tiny figure of 7% of the fleet, which actually is sort of, 9 times less than that original figure. So in absolute terms, those are fairly stunning figures. In relative terms, coming to the headline of the slide, shipbuilding capacity overall has actually shrunk by 40% from this 50 million CGD press tonnage, which is a shipbuilding output measurement, to just 30 million. So again, 40%. So I would just conclude by saying demand is a little bit unsteady, as we've seen, but on the supply side, it really looks quite encouraging. So if we can get beyond lockdown, we can get beyond the sanctions and tariffs, as I mentioned, maybe it's not really good. Thank you for your attention.
For the top container markets, we call Fernando Cruz Gonçalves from Leeds, Portugal.
When they have goods
conference day as the council. So I would like to mention that it's good to see so many students from our institution, and also to say that there is still a simultaneous transmission by web. So I think this conference will reach lots of people. Okay, and following Richard Stokes' idea, I will try to present the main index in container market. We'll try to, and I think you all realize that the two last years were two very good years for container markets in shipping. The reason is there are several reasons, but I will try to explain that later. But we have almost reached the 10,000 index in during container index. It was at the beginning of this year. It was the highest value that we have reached, and it shows us that this market was dynamic, and it was possible to earn very good money during the two last years. Okay, I will present. There is some change, some things that are changing. Usually, the relationship between the GDP and the demand for maritime transport, the demand increases more than GDP, connected with the globalization process. Now the things are a little bit different. That's important issue. But at the same time, the most important topic that it causes the increase the freight level was, we call it the supply chain disruption. There were several reasons connected with this. One of them, I think everyone know about the grounding of Ever Given. It was between 23 and 29 of March 2021, the ground of Ever Given in Suez. I think it was very important for our sector because it was the first time that I see the main televisions worried about this sector, and I think it was 12% of international trade was blocked during 6 days, and it was possible to be much more. But I think it was the first time that the world understand the importance of containerization cargo and the importance of maritime transport. I think this image showed it was just a 20,000 TEU vessel. It was one of the biggest vessels in the world. The biggest vessel in the world in this moment has 24,000 TEUs. This was a 20,000 TEU vessel, but it was enough to stop the international trade during 6 days. But the problem is not the 6 days. The problem is the wave cascade effect that is connected with the. I could tell you that just for depreciation, financial depreciation of food, we could make a valuation of about $7.9 thousand million about this disaster. Okay? I'm speaking about if we include the depreciation, if we include the costs of the direction of supply chains, we could reach $49,000 million connected with this accident. So to give you some idea about the costs of this type of accidents. Okay, there are some important topics. Everything started with the COVID-19 pandemic. With that comes this supply chain disruption that I will also speak later. It was a completely mess in most of the supply chain. The important thing is sometimes it's not the speed, it's not the most important. What is the most important is the reality of the supply chain. I could explain you that because of the safety stock formula for calculating the safety stocks. It's very connected with variability of the lead times, not with the speed. The variability of the speed times is on square, and it's very important. At the same time, I think you realize that there was a complete change between the consumption of goods and services. Most of in the past, we were seeing the increase of the consumption of services, like purity and so on. With COVID-19, everyone stay at home and start spending his money on furniture, on garden, and so on. If you see, we are changing from economy of services to an economy most connected with goods. And that is the main variable for the demand for maritime transport. And that was one of also the causes of the very high price in freight rates. Okay. So it's a completely different type of consumption. The transport costs increase a lot, sometimes 10 times higher than the usual cost. And we have also a very big problem of congested imports. Richard has already speak about that. But for instance, it's not important that the vessels reach at a very high speed the ports if they will stay there for 25 days waiting for available imports. And it was a huge, at the same time, we improve a lot the vessels, we improve, but the transference between the cargo from the vessel to the terminal, we could not have gained the same order of gains. So, as you see today, container vessel stays lots of time in port, and there are also some problems in making the distribution. And there were also some labor problems with truck drivers and so on in the United States. So all of these factors cause this supply chain disruption that lead to very, very high freight rates. At the same time, you still, I was discussing with the professor about this topic, we still, most of the last years, we are always trying to increase the size of the vessels in order to achieve economies of scale, the reduction of the cost of per unit transported. This is not, if this is ever ACE, today is not the biggest because we have ever been a lot as more ACE TUs. This one is a 23,1996 container vessel. In my opinion, we are passing for, okay, my opinion, I never saw a paper about this topic, but in my opinion, this type connected with the congestions in port, connected with the lack of flexibility, connected, I think these type of vessels will not be the rule for the future. Okay? It's why? Because, okay, in terms of economic terms, each time that we have economies of scale in production, we have also this economy of scale. There is a point, a inflection point, it's over there, that increase of the size of the production unit, in this term, the vessel, decrease the size of the vessel, will cause the increase of the price of transport. So, and in my opinion, I told you 10 years ago, I think I'm the only one that always speak about this topic. 10 years ago, I thought that in my opinion, the biggest vessel will be around 25,000 TEU. Let's see. I think we could not make some. It's not easy to make this type of protection, but I think I will show you later on some figures that will show that. Okay, it was a time that every maritime operator earns lots of money, as you know. They have lots of money to spend, and supply chain disruption. Sometimes people say that it was caused by maritime operators in order to gain more money. But there are things that we have to think, the port congestions. At the same time, we have a problem of the position of the containers. We have much more containers, empty containers from Asia, and we don't have empty containers from the Europe and United States area. The alteration of the pattern of consumption, and that determines a typical behavior of freight markets. Another topic that I think it's one of the most everyone speak about that. It's true. We have an oligopoly in the market of container market. If you see the these figures are from today. I think the students, it will be compulsory that you present figures from today. We use figures from 2 or 3 years ago. I think it's not acceptable that they sorry, it's from 11 of October, it's not today, it was yesterday. But if you see 85% of the main maritime operators are just 9 companies. These 9 companies control. This is oligopoly. These 9 companies control the market. We have to assume that. But we have to see also the good things about this type of structure of market. We achieve also some gains due to that. Besides this oligopoly, we have another thing that makes this problem more important. We have strategic alliances connected the main maritime operators. You can see most of the main maritime operations are integrated in strategic alliance, and the power in the market they have is very significant. That's like Richard presented. I think the order book is very important. We have, okay, the last peak, it was 2008. I remember that in October of 2008, there was a collapse in maritime industry. And I also want to remember that between 2008 and 2020, all the maritime companies lose money or stay separate. It's easy to pass the guilty to the maritime operators, but we have to remember that during 12 years they lose money. So now they have huge profits in this moment, but they are recovering from 12 years of loss. So it's also necessary to have that idea. We never saw such a huge order book as we got for 22 to 23 and 24. It's the rest, right? So we should be like Richard told, we should be worried about don't forget that the freight rates, the combination of demand and supply. If we have a huge supply, the freight rates will be lower. There is a problem that, in my opinion, will be very important in the future. Today, it's the interest rate, the inflation, and the recession. As I think you realize, most of the vessels are steaming at low steaming, okay, in order to spare fuel, okay. In the future, I'm not sure with high interest rate, with high inflation, I think they will be forced to increase the speed in order to decrease the financial depreciation of the goods. And if we have the speed, okay, the order book will increase the number of the vessels. That if at the same time they start increasing the speed, I think there is a problem with the freight, with the adjustment between demand and supply. But I think we have to wait and see. Another thing, that's the final topic. I have spoken with another professor today. This is the new order book from IS. If you see, they are completely different vessels. They are not 20,000 TEU vessels. This vessel has 70, on the left side, it's 17 TEUs. And if you see the bridge goes completely forward, if you see the AG goes aft, it is just half of the port side. What's the main idea of this type of vessel? There are already 20 vessels in order book of large liner. The idea is trying to improve the port operation. When we see the results hour by gateway crane, we could reach 33 TEUs per hour. We could use in the maximum 5 gateway cranes. But this type of moves is considering a homogeneous group of containers. If you see, the idea of these vessels is trying to create a homogeneous group of containers in order to increase the rhythm of moving the containers. Okay? Without any type, we don't have the bridge in the middle, we don't have the funnel in the aft. The idea is trying to finish all the things that could create a reduction in the cargo and discharge rate. Okay, that's connected, as we think, with the port congestion. The idea is that the vessels stay. They are more flexible vessels, not so big as in the past. Don't forget that today the economy of scale is not so important when we have high freight rates, and the idea is trying to maintain less time in ports. I'm sorry, I think I take too much time. Thank you very much.
For the topic, energy efficiency and sustainable growth, we call Victoria Boyle from Norwegian University of Science and Technology, Norway.
Nice to see you, and I'm really happy that so many students here. I all the time encourage my students to participate in conferences because it's something that you are active, you are involved, you show that you are curious, so you are trying to find some problems and find some solutions. In this way, you're trying to be innovative and creative. Yeah, and I'm from University in Norway, from Norwegian University of Science and Technology. Yeah, but I'm not Norwegian, I'm Ukrainian. I work for university from 2020. And previous my research was about emerging economies and economic growth. And when I got this opportunity to work for NTNU in maritime industry, I was like, it's something not mine, I guess. It's so different from my area of expertise, because previously I was looking like how the world impacts different countries. And now I understand that it so correlates to each other, because now I see how the situation in Ukraine impacts actually every sector of our life, including maritime, and how technologies can help us to solve the situation, to solve the problem. Yeah, so as I told you, I am from this region, from NTNU in Ålesund, And we have different maritime clusters in Norway, and this is the most well-known, we call it Blue Maritime Cluster in this region, and I will tell you why it's important. So we are talking today about importance of the maritime industry, what challenges we have, technological innovation and energy efficiency, how it's correlated, and also sustainable growth in maritime industry, how we can reach it. Yeah, so there is data for Norway, and you will see how it's maritime industry important in this country, but it's also relevant for majority of countries that sea plays huge role, like in Portugal, yes, in UK and so on. So here we see the revenue from different markets, their development, and previously oil and gas industry played so huge role in Norway. But after 2013, when prices went down, less and less this industry started to be important, and more we put emphasis like on freight transport and other industries like fisheries, aquaculture, cruise, passenger ship. So you see that oil and gas less important. And when it comes to revenue generation, so here is our region, and here is revenue from maritime industry. So we see that compared to other, even not in Oslo, not in other regions, our region is very dependent on maritime sector. So it's very important for economy. Also, maritime industry, we know that when it comes to CO2 emissions, it's the best sustainable way to carry goods, yes, because emissions from maritime is just 11%. Here is globally, and when it comes to Norwegian sector, so yeah, here it's together aviation and maritime, so it's not that much compared to oil and gas industry, yes. So it's important for environment, maritime industry. When it comes to another aspect, innovation aspect, it's very important. Norway is considered a world leader in sustainable technological solutions in maritime industry, and it's true. I work for a university which involved with those new technologies in different projects, and we see how this market is important. In this digitalization area, how it's important to maritime sector, it's really a lot of investments in this area. So we have a lot of research about digitalization in maritime. And also, I told you, I'm from this maritime cluster where we call the most complete maritime cluster because we have all representatives that in supply chain involved, like suppliers of equipment, service providers, ship owners, shipyards, everything is here, and they collaborate very close to each other so they can innovate something new together. So maritime industry is very important. But everything is good if you didn't have challenges in this industry, yes? We talked today a lot about market shocks like oil and gas price, COVID, war in Ukraine, competition on the international market. It's because of China, Korea. They're really big competitors, and Norway is even being very advanced in technologies, but still we feel this competition. The price is less in those countries. And also decarbonization is shifting because it's new regulations and maritime industry exposed to follow all those rules. And I will tell you shortly about those two big challenges, what I did in my research. So you see this blue maritime cluster revenue, and previously ship owners were dependent on oil and gas industry, like on 80%. This is revenue from for ship owners from oil and gas. And after this shock, it's less. And shipyards and other like equipment, design and services, they started to concentrate on the cruise ship market. They decided that we have to go to have this transition from oil and gas to something more promising. And cruise ship was promising, but Corona happened in 2020, and cruise ships were not active at that time. But now this is much better. And when we see 2013, when this oil and gas price crisis happened, we can see how ocean value added in Norway dependent on the price of oil and gas. When it goes down, revenue goes down. When it goes up, revenue goes up in Norwegian value added. But we have like below, we can call it, something that makes this challenges a little bit smoother. It's official exchange rate. We sell oil not in euros, we sell in dollars. So we have this Norwegian crowns to USD exchange rate. So we see when it goes down, so the exchange rate go up. So it a bit helps to mitigate the problem for our revenue. So I wanted to find out how actually this challenges with oil price impacts value added, to which extent. So I did this regression, and you can see that really oil price impacts negatively value added, and we see that the exchange rate has positive impact on the value added. So maritime industry very dependent on external shocks, on external markets. And what's new? Now it's another challenge. It's energy price crisis in 2022, and especially those very intensive, energy-intensive markets like aviation and shipping. They exposed mostly to those shocks. So we have a question: what's the consequence of this? How we can mitigate here the situation? Because we don't know how long the situation will be like this, yeah. And how we can use less energy. And it's believed that technological innovation, it's a good medicine, like a pill to solve the problem here, to have this transition smooth, yeah. And it's believed that we have major benefits from innovation because it contributes to economic growth, it contributes to higher productivity, and it's also when it comes to sustainability, yes, so technology, innovation, and sustainability, it goes together. It's believed that it really improves the situation. So when it comes to the topic energy efficiency and technological innovation, yeah, it's believed that the continuous more advanced technology is needed to develop more energy efficient technology. And if we have better energy efficiency, it contributes to productivity, economic growth, and again to sustainability. Yes. So I wanted to investigate: is it true, and to which extent technologies, new technologies nowadays helps us to improve the situation and contributes to economic growth. So it was like a correlation analysis of technological, this energy efficiency and technological innovation. I did like two indicators. I made the investigation based on input and output. So when it comes to technological innovation, it's presented here, which parameters we do, and energy efficiency and technological innovation. It's like how many research we use, like what kind of resources we use, and what outcome, how many patents, how many, what kind of innovation turnover we have. So everything was considered. And in the end, I got this result. Yes, it's really big correlation, energy efficiency and new technologies quite have positive effect, and it's close, it's very huge impact. And here are this data for different countries, like here's for Portugal, for Norway. Here we see the level, it's average level of technological innovation. And here's for Portugal, here's for Norway, and energy efficiency indicator for Portugal and for Norway. It's not bad, we can say. For majority of Eastern European countries, it's much less. So there is room for growth, yes, but here is much better. So it was proved that on the macro level, on countries level, that technological innovation, energy efficiency correlates. Okay, so what about maritime industry? How to investigate it? Yes. We know that the global shipping industry is responsible for 3% of global emissions. It's the same like Japan for whole year. And we have a budget, we talked already today for the beginning. Our budget for 2030 is to use zero emission fuel for 5% of international shipping fuel and 15% of domestic shipping fuel. So how to reach this? It's not only about new fuel like ammonia, hydrogen, and so on, so on. Also, new technology is important. Infrastructure and new technology in order to reach this goal. Just to use new fuel, it's not enough. Like today, we talked that new types of ships is important. Yes, new equipment on ship is also very important. So actually, how it contributes to sustainable growth? It's an interesting question, yes. And this is infrastructure at our university. It's remote operation center. We have it at our campus in Molison, and we use it in our research quite a lot. And companies also interested in understanding how new technologies can contribute. So we call it remote operation center, so people onshore can sit here in this remote operation, and some people offshore. And less of operations should be offshore and more onshore. And also the center can help us to make this, to create this economy of scale, because more operations can be done from onshore. So many ship owners are really wondering how we can make money on it. Yes, it's good, and it's good on paper, it's good, it's fancy when you come to university and you have this, but how it can contribute to our value added, and how we can contribute to sustainability. So it's very interesting question to investigate how these new technologies contribute to energy efficiency, technological innovation, and actually to relationship with the supply chain. As I told you, we have all actors in this Blue Maritime cluster for different representatives, yes, and it's important to see how their relationship will be changed in the supply chain, and how it contribute to sustainable value. So it's important to have this another step of investigation, and it's interesting that when I talk to companies, so I presented them macro research about technological innovation and energy efficiency that you showed previously, and it can be used for sector level like maritime industry, and even for can be applied for micro level for company. So they're really interested in investigation this energy efficiency at their company, those new technologies, how contribute to energy efficiency, how it contributes to productivity. We can use this equation again, we have to regression and so on, it's possible to trace it, and sustainability, how it contributes to sustainability. Everything is feasible. So we can make a conclusion that decarbonization and new environmental regulation, fuel price is huge challenges for shipping. So here is from Maritime Forum, there is this from 2022, there is this map of impact on economy and livelihood. And here is the decarbonization and fuel price is really the most important challenge, the most important challenges. We know from this research that technological innovation improving energy efficiency, and Maritime cluster is a good place to check that. So it's very important to see this from a complete supply chain perspective. And I like this expression because technology is something sometimes very abstract, sometimes it's not understandable. But it's very important that those new technologies, not just fancy thinker that we can see and say, wow, but it's also something that actually makes sense and it brings people together. Yeah, thank you for your attention. Yeah.
For the topic, technological innovations, we call Marcel Chiage from Reykjavik University Iceland.
Yes, thank you very much. I have to agree that I'm pleasantly surprised to see so many people in the audience. My name is not very Icelandic, I have to say. My first name is French. My last name is Polish. I come from the middle, which is Germany. Maybe as a short announcement, you missed your chance. Best bacalhau comes from Iceland. Actually, 20% of our GDP is the fishing industry, and we run it on a fleet that is over 50 years old. We have a lot of potential to reduce our greenhouse emissions by just buying more recent ships. Another thing is I'm a little bit of an odd person because my profession is in computer science. I know quite little about ships and the shipping industry. I know about the technological infrastructure on which most of you build your systems, right? Your companies and so on. So I will also focus on different ideas. So the first question that we can ask, that I ask myself is, well, what is a technological innovation? And how good are we actually at innovating, right? In my field, I mean, we file hundreds of thousands of patents every year. And you could say that most of them, they are filed for so-called defensive purposes, right? To keep the competition from suing me for patent infringement. This is how we innovate in computer science. So we would like to be able to measure how well we innovate, and one popular among consultants way to do this is Gartner's hype cycle. Right? So you would basically think about this is a good innovation. You would observe how it gets adopted over time, and you want to predict that after like early adopters took it over, you get into the valley of despair where we iron out all the issues that we see from the early adopters, and then it takes off and will become a big problem. The problem with Gartner's hype cycle is that it predicted the success of the technology less than 10% of the time. Right? Of all the things, I think the biggest, the example they're most proud of is podcasting. This is a hype technology that's so high. NASA, on the other hand, they rely on the technology readiness level as a measure for how well a product has been developed, which on a scale from 1 to 7 tells you that it's a good idea. This is 1, right? This is something we want to investigate. Until 7, it's a product that you can buy off the shelf. Technology readiness level is about your risk of adopting a technology. It also doesn't tell you little about how well your innovation works. So the true metric actually that we should develop is how well does a new idea serve you? Right? What are great new ideas? And of course, many ideas actually counter certain growth ideas that industry has. A very good example to study in this field is Zipcar. It's a car sharing technology. It's like cars as a service. This is an idea that automakers hate, because you sell less cars in a market where people have adopted car sharing to a huge degree. So, how actually do we innovate? Right? What are the processes? And if I talk to my students in Reykjavik, they will think about huge ideas, right? Disruptive ideas. But this is not true. Old ideas have a lot of value. I mean, they have invented carbon neutral shipping 3,000 years ago. Right? Sailing ships brought us to America, carbon neutral. Okay? The problem that we have today is, for instance, how to make something like sailing ships that can carry thousands of containers. We can think about these in terms of, this is from Walter Vincenti. He is an aerospace engineer. He thought about what engineers know, right, and how they know. And he identified two ways of actually designing systems. And the first one is radical design, where you don't know how the thing you are going to build is actually to be built. You don't know whether you will be successful. You have an idea and you want to test it. You want to get to do something, some prototype that you can refine on, and that tells you whether it's worth to investigate it further. His example in his book is the first jet engine. Right? Can I build an engine to have its plane fly by just compressing air? And it turned out to be viable. But most of the things that we do, the domain where we innovate is in the so-called normal design, right? We know at the outset the principles of what we are going to build. We know the features of such a thing. And we have, if we follow a good process, a high likelihood of succeeding in building such a system. Think about sailing ships. Right? We know how they work. We understand the principle. We can try to figure out how to make them larger, how to change parts to make those kind of ships feasible, and so forth. So, but I don't know a lot about ships. I know more about data and how to process them. And computers, they are pretty good at detecting certain patterns in data. What we observe here is, however, the data that we have, companies consider them as their most valuable property today. They also have history. Pen and paper, right, and sending telefaxes has been the modus operandi of many companies in this field. Your database of your friends and people you have to interact in is on a Rolodex, right? It's pen and paper again. And we enter quickly a digital age. There are a lot of technologies actually that we now investigate, like language processing and optimization algorithms that can help us to make our systems much more efficient, much more valuable. Right? In, for instance, bulk shipping, I observed there are two kinds of people. And if you talk, for instance, about grain, this is one of the few things that Iceland actually imports in bulk. Some people, like typical bread mills, they don't care what kind of wheat they get, right? You can mix all the wheat into one big ship and they will process it. Breweries, they are much more selective. And they like to have grains from a specific area only. So if I have to serve those two kinds of people, I need to be able to schedule how to transport the grain. And we're just learning it for bulk shipping because all of our efforts was focused on containers. Containers, they are such a wonderful unit for our computation, for our algorithms, because they're all the same size. And you can stack them, you can process them in a unified way. And this is what the computer science has law. But how to talk about things like grain or bauxite, we have still to learn this. I talked a little bit about high technology. And this is now what I want to take most of my time for today. So many companies, many people in this field, they have the technology called blockchain and smart contracts for supply chain management and for digital contracts and so on. It's a great idea in principle, but you have first to be constructive because we have now entered the crypto winter. Basically, the high volatility of so-called cryptocurrencies caused many of the participants to stop operating, which actually, if you look at the numbers, save more CO2 than the whole transportation sector on the world can be expected to save in the next 10 years. These are huge amounts of wastages that such innovations create. But the big problem here is essentially that the Bitcoin currency, they tried to do a good technology, they tried to innovate, but they did it wrong in some parts. So let's think about how we can fix this. And to this, I want to essentially talk about the history, the genesis of Bitcoin and the blockchain hype. So, Sakamoto, the pseudonymous inventor of Bitcoin, published this idea in 2008. A peer-to-peer electronic cash system. At this time, electronic cash was not new. That was invented by Bach 6 years earlier. He created a system called hash, a denial of service countermeasure. And his idea was basically, people send so much spam emails, right? And there's a cost involved in processing emails. So to make it worthwhile to actually send an email, I assign a virtual price for me receiving it. Right? You do a meaningless calculation for some time just to prove that you want me to accept the email. Right? And if you're a spammer, you quickly run up a big electricity bill while all the legitimate emails, and then it becomes affordable in this picture. Okay, so the idea of the creation of electronic money, that preceded. The idea of this blockchain technology that everybody talks about it, that is important. Haber and Stonetta, researchers in Belgium at that time, in 1991, they are credited to be the true inventors of blockchain. And they wanted to solve a very different problem. Okay? So their paper, their contribution is called How to Timestamp a Digital Document. The problem they wanted to solve is that, well, we are researchers, right? We are designers, we are innovators. We want to have a cheap system to make sure to document the date of our innovation, of our documents. Right? Before this, people would have to go to a courthouse to pay some money to get a stamp on it, or they would put their documents into an envelope, address it to themselves, and send it by post. And then the post stamp would be your timestamp, right? Whatever is inside of the envelope was sent before that stamping. And Haber and Stonetta basically said, well, if I can, in a way, create a sequence of timestamps for my document, then everything before a timestamp in my sequence is actually created before the current timestamp. Great idea. So another thing that Sakamoto thought about was to have a decentralized database of all transactions in Bitcoin. The problem of decentralized databases, decentralized data stores, that was already addressed by Lamport in 1989. Where he thought about how to create a database that is robust to adversaries on a system, right? Because in a monetary system, people would like to, in a way, forge money, forge transactions to make sure to enrich themselves, right? To get a financial benefit. And Lamport proposed a solution to this that Sakamoto did not accept for his because it's very expensive. The last part is, of course, if I want to talk about currency or monetary transaction system, is to have some evidence that if I say I transfer money from me to somebody of you, that it was actually me that issued this transaction. And for this, you can use something that we call a digital signature. The idea of a digital signature goes back to Diffie and Hellman from 1976, so it's almost as old as I am. I was 1 year old at this time. So, in some sense, right, if I would have to evaluate the value that blockchain technology contributes, is that it is a bad dish cooked from good ingredients. So what can we make better? Can we make a better dish? Let's go back to the idea of what we actually need in the shipping industry. We want to digitize the process of contract negotiation, of agreeing on a contract. And actually, we rely on two features for this. The first one is that we have a document, probably in a standardized format, that carries our signature, just like we did it hundreds of years ago, right? And we know how to do this digitally, right? We have something that in computer science we call hashed message authentication codes, where you take your document, you calculate a mathematical value to represent that now that we are going to sign it, nobody will change the content of the document. And we use cryptographic methods to make sure that actually it was also me that signed this document. And once we have, and this is actually like the process that we go through, right? Today, even with pen and paper. We want to notarize it, right? We want to make sure that this copy is known to all the parties and it was signed at a certain time, and that is what a notary will do. And that can be done with Habermas and Stonetter's idea of a blockchain. And if you think it in terms of this, right, running a blockchain for maritime contracts will generate CO2 in the range of grams. And it will be less of running a light bulb for 10 minutes. This is sustainability built on old ideas, just by combining them in a better way. So what did we actually talk? I mean, we talked the proof of work idea, the Hashcash idea that is causing all the environmental emissions. We also dropped the idea of replication, because I mean, there are typically 3 to 4 parties. We don't need to distribute our data to the whole world. It is actually sufficient to have copies in select places. And also for data privacy reasons, right? The companies do not want to share the data with the world, right? It is their property. And the problem to distribute signed documents in a safe way, that is also known to be very cheap. because our signatures actually solve that problem. I think I have used my time, so I skip over this slide. To conclude, in a world, and this is the open problem that we still face, where document formats are standardized, we can come up using blockchain-like ideas with a very sustainable solution, much more sustainable than pen and paper, to come up with contracts, to distribute them, to sign them. We don't need what marketing people and consultants sell you as blockchain, but we need blockchain. Right? We need the ideas behind it, the technology behind it. And this ensures security, confidentiality, which is one of future's main IT crises. Thank you.
We invite all of you to a coffee break, which will be served in the return lobby in the next 15 minutes.
Tá bom. Tá. Não, mas tá. Eu só mais uma coisa, né? Não, vou testar. Eu vou acabar de escrever aí, mas já vou tentar mais aqui.
For the topic, forces shaping the diffusion of information, we call Valentina Schwalbe from the University of Aveiro, Portugal.
Good morning. I would like to thank this opportunity and the invitation of Nautica. It's a great pleasure to be here and share the panel with noted speakers from all over the world, excellent experts, and also to see here the room full of people who will build our future. So you are hope. And Professor Fernando, he challenged me to talk about forces shaping the diffusion of information. Because since we are talking about trends in information in transport, probably we will have to be aware not only of positive things and futures that it brings, and it's a lot, as I mentioned, President Victor Franco and in the beginning. But we also have to know what doesn't let us to go forward quicker, maybe to reach a maximum potential of what is needed. I made my PhD 20 years ago in intelligence system, in intelligence navigation system. Since then, world improved a lot. At the time, the main challenge was the exchange of the information at the bridge, because of the security reasons. And today, more and more, we go to the shore, or something that is between sea and shore, to the seaports. That's the main hub, digital hub of the exchange of the information by the natural reasons. As Marcel said, the world didn't start yesterday, but a little bit earlier. And it's not only decarbonization challenges that were already overcome by our great fathers, but also naturally seaports were born as spots of exchange of information, because ships are coming from different places, different countries, people are bringing goods, exchange of the people, and all of this forces us to exchange data for commercial reason, for security reason, and it's always been like this. And in the most ancient Egyptian scripts were found like before Christ, the data noticed about exchange of goods, services, and people. And it continues to be this way. The maritime supply chain is growing in complexity, as it's been said before. And just to make a background of my next slides, I would like to share with you the mention of the chapter. This is a case study of Port of Sines and ports of Brazil and TAC. I had the pleasure to develop it together with the president of Port of Sines, José Luís Castro, and at that time president of ANTAC for Brazil, Adalberto Takarski. And it's even more pleasant to announce it here because this book was launched here in the Nautical School in the May of this year. This chapter, if someone is interested, is open access, so you can read it when you want it. It's completely free. And what did we, when we started to see what is the possibility between exchange between Brazil and Portugal? As you know, Brazil is the biggest commercial partner of Portugal in terms of volume and value. We started to think what would happen to make some simulation of the situation. What could be possible if it would be full exchange information between Portuguese seaports and Brazilian seaports. It has a financial analysis. I will not bring it here, but it's a lot. And also, in the other hand, we started to see why things not happening this way, and there's some characteristics of the information that should be overcome. And if we look where these constraints come from, we can probably take a closer attention to the pain points of the maritime supply chain. And what are the pain points? They are different. As you can see, They are not legal constraints. There are too many stakeholders there to work together in a very different ways. There are legal constraints, and of course, there are secrets of the business. If we try to resume three main forces that shape an exchange of information, we can basically speak about path dependency, asymmetry, and internalization. What would it mean? Explaining very simply, because it's not a lecture today, explaining in a very simple way what is a path dependency. And maybe making a recall to Victoria's presentation, is it innovation a solution for everything? When we want to answer this question, probably we have to get a closer look to the path dependency. What does it mean? It happens that since supply chain is growing in a complexity, it's a lot of investment that made during the years. It's a lot of infrastructure and equipment and also human characteristics that being built. And the more things we have, more difficult is to advance with innovation because we have to take into account everything that was already built. In other words, it's a level of asset accumulation interest. You just can't throw everything away and suddenly build everything new from zero. If we look to another point, which is asymmetry, when we speak about seaports, we speak a lot of players and big networks that work together. And it happens that those players have different dimensions, they come from different countries, and they have different level of innovation, and of course, they have different capacity financially. Of course, bigger players with big financial capacity, they easily integrate new systems and are more sensitive to the innovation. If you go to other places, maybe smaller players don't have that much money to invest, and of course, the difference between big players with a lot of money and small players with less money. It's some gap. It was already presented here in container shipping business. So, of course, 9 companies that dominate the container shipping world, as Professor Bujana mentioned. Of course, they have big capacity, and nowadays we see that Mars maybe is trying to build something that is similar to Amazon, and vice versa. Amazon is entering in a shipping business, but there are players with different capacity and different type of possibilities to invest. Is asymmetry that complicated, and should it really exist? There are different types of the reasons. First, dimension and financial capacity, as I already mentioned. Another thing is it's not that easy to erase asymmetry because companies use it as a competitive advantage. Imagine you have a lot of information, you have some facility to gather it, to store it, and maybe to analyze it. But if you are a commercial company, you usually use it as a part of your business model. And there is some expression in Portugal, long time created, that maybe the secret is the soul of the business. Maybe it shouldn't be this way, but it is still what it is. So companies are not so open, not always open to share the business model. Another thing is the competitiveness. If big player has a lot of companies, it means that they know a lot about their customers. Imagine if you order to ship some Amazon product, what happens? In the next few seconds, you have offer of something that you could also like. The offer is of easy purchases for the next time, and they bring you unique customer experience. And if they bring you unique customer experience, of course, you become a loyal client that nobody wants to share with other people or with other competitors. So it's normal that some commercial companies are resilient to share maybe their market intelligence and operational knowledge. Another, the third and the last main huge direction, if you can say like this, it can be called internalization. So it's not, it's opposite of sharing the things with everyone. It's actually keep everything internal. So if you're a big company and you have a lot of research and data, you have a capacity to create your small world around. So you have new systems that work together, that collect data, that process data, that store the data. You don't have to ask someone, you have to make it everything internally. This is what big companies are actually involved in supply chain are trying to do nowadays. It appears to be, according to the last research made, the prevalent strategy of ESG companies. So the question that we are facing now, will information and communication technology help to bring these forces, or in the opposite way, will they reinforce them? So it's a question that remains open. I believe it's something more than a nearly normal question, but what shall we do? Will technology make the gap bigger, or will it help to break it down? And what is the solution? The science says, if we make a literature review, that maybe the future is behind interoperability. So if you keep your systems internally, it's better than to be connected with other systems. You probably have extension of your hand that is your smartphone, and some of you have Android system and another one have iPhone system. And you know that it's very difficult to change from Android, whatever, Android to the iPhone, because it's a different systems. So you have always a problem of interoperability. And maybe the next steps in a port supply chain, it's to make interoperability of the system kind of mandatory. So create the rule. Okay, you have a big capacity for investment. You prefer to keep things internal, but you have to create it in a way that it will be possible to interconnect with the other players. So Android users know very well what we are talking about. I will not publicize any brand, but you can easily change from one to another. And when we talk about interoperability, who is a fan of information and communication technology maybe knows that we have talked about semantic, structural, syntactic, and system interoperability. So you will ask, so what to do? We have three forces, it's a lot of money that are in the game. Of course, if we would overcome and everything would be interconnected, who would be the last winner? The last winner will be us, because we are the end users. We'll have products quicker, better quality, and cheaper. So there is our common interest. But in another hand, we have commercial interests. So what to do? Who wins? In a situation like this, usually it's important that government introduction. That's why government exists, and that's why not only for this, but also for this, to support the innovation and to care about citizen who is a final customer in the end. Actually, there are two main streams today in port supply chain. This is a blockchain, which I will not talk because Professor Malsikias from Reykjavik University already talked about it very clearly, but I would focus on another part, that it's a port community system. We have an excellent example in Portugal, and we have the pleasure to have Marlo, that is responsible for the JUL, that is the Janela Única Logística, that probably you've heard a lot in your classes. The main idea of it is to create interoperability between different players and to put it in a unique platform. I will also close with port community system, because it's not only beginning. but it's also the end of my presentation. I opened with the Port of English and Brazil case, and I will finish and close exactly with the same because if someone more or less attentive to the news, probably you've heard about PRF, which is the Portuguese program of recuperation and resilience, and one of the best programs is called Nexus, which is actually led by APS, and I believe we will hear a lot about the port community system and possibilities to integrate the port shipping port supply chains in the next future, because government invests a lot of money in this platform that actually promises us to have data integrated in one platform that has as its main objective to increase the economic capacity of the country, and as a consequences make final customer life better, and also to have companies to improve using the data in one big platform for the reason that it's necessary and makes our world better. So it's not an easy trend. It depends on how we will use it, and thank you for the attention. And I'm looking forward to see you all in the future research, making a big improvement for the future of the shipping business, and I wish you all the luck. Thank you.
For the topic, innovation in the maritime sector, we call Jorge Almeida from Sacramento, Portugal.
Morning, it's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to follow an uplifting speech by Valentina. I think we need a bit of good news and hope to be able to look at the future with good perspectives. I was asked to talk about innovation in the maritime sector, and I see a couple of pictures are missing. I sent this on PDF, and I guess it didn't come quite true, but I can happily, I can try to describe it. Essentially, we have an image here of innovation in the shipping sector, past, present, and future. And I'm going to talk particularly about the future. But I think it's useful to give examples of where we came from, okay, in terms of the development of this sector, the maritime sector. And the first one, some of you may have come across this ship called the steamship Archimedes. It was the first ship that used a screw propeller. We're talking 1839, so 19th century, and this was a huge revolution. Also, it coincided with the transition from sailing ships, sailing power, wind power, to steam power. So this was really an historical moment in terms of the evolution of the market. And funny enough, right now we're looking again at wind as a source of power for modern ships. You know that there are several projects going on in which wind is being used to either through sails or through a rotor using the so-called Magnus effect to complement the power of a ship, the mechanical power. So it's quite curious that is having a comeback. The second one is a name you all should know. If you don't, you should keep in your mind. Is Malcolm McLean is the man who revolutionized the shipping industry and the economy in general with two revolutions. The first one was the introduction of the first container ship called IDLX in 1956, and the second one was the introduction later on in 1982 of the first round-the-world service, utilizing very large ships and then transshipping the cargo to distribute it to smaller ports, which is nowadays the model that is used by all the global operators, as you know. Curiously enough, he was very lucky when he introduced the containers because it coincided with the beginning of the involvement of US in the Vietnamese War. So it was the Department of Defense of the United States that proves the worth of the containers, because most of the people in the business thought this was completely crazy. Mr. McLean is a man that came from the trucking industry, he knew nothing about shipping. So people thought the guy didn't know what he was talking about. And he was lucky. Vietnam really helped him proved the concept, and at the end of the 1960s, every liner company was using or ordering container ships. The second one was unlucky. He built the biggest ships in the world that could, at the time, that could cross the Panama Canal, which was about 6,000 TEUs. And the ships were built in Korea. They started operating in 1982, and it was a huge commercial success. But then the world coming into a very, very deep recession. The ships and the containers have been bought with 100% financing by a group of the 6 largest banks in the United States. And Mr. McLean asked him for a moratorium until the crisis could pass. The bank said, okay, on the condition that we put a representative of the banks in the board of directors in the company that was called US Lines. And for him, this was an insult, so he decided to bankrupt the company. So that was the end of the second revolution that he didn't carry out completely, but was followed by every major global operators. The next innovation that has had a huge impact, not only in shipping, but also in the economy in general, was the introduction of the first ship that carries natural gas. Now, natural gas is a very, very low density gas, and in order to carry it, you have to make it liquefied, and you have to compress it by about 600 times, okay? And you cannot do it by pressure because it used to be a huge threat, and any failure will result in an explosion. So it's done by making liquid. To liquefy it to the boiling temperature of minus 161 degrees centigrade. And you know that when you bring the temperature down to such an extent that the steel and all the material becomes very, very brittle. So it's from an engineering point of view, this is a huge challenge which was finally overcome in 1959 with the development of this first ship, the Methane Pioneer. Now, I've had some luck in my life, I must say. And part of my luck was that I worked with the naval architect firm called J.J. Henry that designed both the Ideal X and also the Methane Pioneer. So I was part of the team with the people that were involved in this project. And for me, this was really an eye-opening experience. And then later on, I was invited by Mr. McLean to take part in the construction of new ships for the round-world service. So this was part of my stay in the United States. Then the next 2 pictures that you have to imagine were more recent innovations. One of them with a company that you normally don't associate with shipping, which is Amazon. You know, the Amazon is an incredibly innovative company. They started as a bookseller, then they started getting involved in all kinds of markets, and each time they enter a market, they just turn it upside down. They made it much more efficient, and they made it much more competitive. And in 2016, they decided to become ship operators, to operate ships without having ships. What's called NVOCC, non-vessel operating common carrier. In other words, they basically buy or rent space in existing ships, and because they have such a strong negotiating power, basically then they can offer the space in the ships as a normal ship owner. And this revolutionized once more the industry, because suddenly you start getting the entire value chain integrated and much more efficient. And this had a very big impact because all the big maritime operators like Maersk, MSC, CGM follow the same path. So nowadays, if you read the news, you'll see that MSC is buying an airline company or CGM is buying a logistics operator. So this trend started basically in 2016 with this idea of becoming as integrated as possible, and then completely you have to essentially do it on the same footing. The next slide, which I think, hopefully, there's another one that shows it later, is a project that we are involved in CINIT, which has to do also with the logistic integration. Among the other things, I have several hats. One of them, I'm the president of the CINIT Port and Logistics Community, which is an association of all the stakeholders that have anything to do with the Port of CINIT, both private and public. And we are involved in the European Union project with some 30 other companies, which objective is simply to use existing technology and emerging technology to make all the logistic chains in Europe, the transport network, the European transport network more efficient. And we're contributing to something that we should all be proud of, that Valentina mentioned, which is the single logistic window, in which basically you get rid of all the paperwork and everything is done electronically. And this is more advanced than anything else that I've seen in Europe, and this is our contribution to this project. Thanks for planning. Then the last one is the future. We'll talk a little bit about it. Actually, it's a picture from a site from an equipment port equipment supplier called Kalmar, a Finnish supplier, and they have a project they call Ports 2060. And this is what they see happening in the future with the development of something that is very much on the table nowadays. That's called the physical internet, if you have heard about it. If we have a minute, we'll talk about it. All right. Let's hope we have pictures on the other ones. All right. So I would say to simplify a little bit the main drivers, what's happening now in terms of innovation, the motivation for the innovation. One is transversal, that's affected the entire economy, or the entire social structure, which is a digital transition. In fact, that we have such fantastic progress in terms of technology that is changing the way we conduct our lives, we conduct our business, and so on. So that is a huge effect, as you know. The other one is the climate change, the recognition that we have to do something so that we don't destroy the planet. And this is receiving a lot of attention, both from public entities, international organizations, as well from private initiatives. And we can quickly look at what's happening. The third one is what I just mentioned, the fact that every operator, every major operator, global operator, is trying to become a sort of Federal Express of the maritime transport that will offer a one-stop shopping from origin to destiny. And the last one is geopolitical factor, which unfortunately is in the mind of all of us. I don't need to tell you about it, but it's affecting certainly the way the world works, and obviously also the shipping world. Let me see if I skip something. The digital transition, I'm not going to spend too much time. You know a lot about it. Marcel, unfortunately, I didn't attend the previous presentation, but I know Marcel, and he's a technology guru, and I'm sure that he covered this topic with much more competence than I could do it, but it's affecting actually the way the market is working, for sure. Regarding climate change, I mentioned to you that there's some public decisions to try to make this planet livable by the end of the century. You have the kickstart was in 2015 with this UN-sponsored meeting, the COP21, that set as a target to keep the heating, the warming of the globe below 2 degrees centigrade, hopefully less than 1.5 degrees centigrade. And if you read what's being written by people who study, you'll know that none of them is going to be possible. Let's face it. So what we can do is to see how much can we reduce the impact of this global warming. IMO, which, as you know, is the organization that regulates to a large extent the way the shipping market works, has put some targets that in general are considered not sufficient for the objective of the Paris Agreement. And then we have the European Union. European Union, in fact, worldwide, the organization has taken a much harder stance to try to, in fact, reduce the impact of global warming. They have this program called Fit for 55. Well, the objective is that by 2050, Europe will be carbon neutral, and that by 2030, so it's not very far away, that will reduce by 55% the greenhouse effect. So this is a huge, huge challenge, and many people don't think it's possible. But I think not more interesting, but probably more effective is the initiatives from private enterprise to really take in their hands the changes that are necessary to make. One of them is from the banking sector, and shipping depends a lot on funding from the banking. Nobody buys a ship with 100% cash. And a group of the largest banks decided to set up some rules, basically ESG rules, okay, that they considered the basis for lending money for ships. So this is creating clear now the distinction between the companies that have ships that are climate friendly, let's call it, and the others. And slowly this is going to be a big push to improve the quality of the ships. The other two initiatives, again, private initiatives, the Getting to Zero Coalition is an initiative of cargo owners and ship owners, so that by 2030 there will be carbon neutral ships being deployed. So it was 2030, you'll only have carbon neutral ships being put into the market. Okay? The other one, probably the one with sharper teeth, let's say, it's called ZEV, Cargo Owners for Zero Emission Vessels. It's formed by all the large shippers in the world, like Amazon and Procter & Gamble and IKEA. They decided that from 2040, we will not use ships that are not carbon neutral. And in this business, who wants the car is the king. So they will be the ones that are really going to be forcing the change. All right. So all this is happening now, and quite often we see more news about it in the papers. Now we are already seeing some examples of this movement towards so-called green shipping. First of all, as you know, there's a lot of attention nowadays, partly because of the European Union rules, towards developing fuels, renewable fuels to replace the classical hydrocarbons, HFO and MGO. Nobody knows which ones in the end will be the ones that will be commercially competitive. What I can tell you is that one of the largest companies in the world, for many years the largest in the world, Maersk, that now is number 2 in the world, is betting very, very heavily on methanol, green methanol. So they ordered initially 8 ships, container ships, then 4 more, and I just read 2 days ago that they're ordering 7 more ships with methanol. So they'll basically putting down the track that's going to happen. But there are other alternative fuels that are being investigated. Hydrogen, of course, is the ultimate source of power. The problem is how can you put in a ship that doesn't occupy too much space. And in the meantime, LNG is a good intermediate step towards reducing the greenhouse effects. Okay. So many of the ships I just read recently, that more than 60% of the ships that were ordered this year have a dual fuel capacity, in which LNG is the main fuel that will be burned. And you have already some examples. This one is from 2020 from a Norwegian company called Yard. That has one ship that is completely electrical and without any crew. So unmanned, and fully electric. So that can show that in terms of technology, there's nothing that you need to discover. It's just a question of slowly gaining some credibility and tracking the future, right? Physical internet. This is something you're going to hear a lot about if you haven't heard yet. But the concept is the same thing of your internet, the data internet. As you know, the data internet, what you do, you divide a message of the data you want to send into small packs. You send it by whatever channel is available, some communication channels available. Then at the end, you put it all together and you deliver to the desk. That's how the internet works, right? So the idea is to do the same thing with physical goods, is to divide up the physical goods in small packs, so in small containers, and then find the most efficient way to take those packs closer to final destiny and put them together and deliver. It sounds like science fiction, but in fact, it's already being tried in some pilots, and if it is successful, this will revolutionize the market completely. You know, it's container ship as we know it will have to adapt themselves to the different types of containers, much smaller containers. And when you talk about innovation, I didn't know I had this slide actually, but since I have it, I'll talk about it. As you know, there is this very, very generous program of funds from the European Union, the PRR for reparation and resilience, that supports or funds innovative projects that use technology that is not fully developed, that can be then over time turning into commercial products. So the Port Authority of Sines, APS, led a project that was one of the projects that has been selected under this PRR program. That involves something like 35 companies from all sectors of the logistic chain, with the intention of developing something like 20 different services and products, all innovative products. Some of them will be commercial viable, others will not be commercial viable. But this is a fantastic ecosystem for innovation, because essentially you have a group of companies with all different types of technologies and interests and vocation that will get together and try to find ways make the supply chains more efficient. So we'll see how it works. It has to work in a fairly short time span because the PRR, I think, forces you to do it in 2 years. So this is something that is going to make, I'm sure, some noise in the press. And finally, this is the Kalmar ports I told you about. I mean, if that vision, if the physical internet trend that I told you about, it goes ahead, this is what the port in the future might look like. You don't see any big ships any longer. It's a completely intermodal. And in fact, I should mention, if you don't know, that Marlow was involved in an award-winning project sponsored by the European Union for the physical internet. They don't call it that; they call it the mixed movement net for trucks, because trucks, about 60% of the space in the trucks are wasted. Those trucks don't have always cargo from and to the same spots. So they developed this platform that is functioning and is being used commercially. That what it does is exactly this: to find out which packages are there available to go from point A to B, which trucks are available. There are hundreds of thousands available, and they're able to match it in routes where you can take advantage of the available time. And this is the future. We know it's going to happen. I don't know which shape. I think technology is going to happen. It's going to help. But clearly, this is something we have to keep our eyes on. Geopolitical facts, I don't have to tell you. I mean, you know as much as I do. But what is happening in Ukraine with Russia is disrupting completely the market. One of the disruptions will be hard to get back to where it was before, which is the question of the energy. The fact that Europe is overly dependent from Russia for energy, both crude oil, LNG, natural gas, and coal. And the natural gas is the one that's more difficult to replace because the natural gas from Russia comes from pipeline. And the only way you can get from other sources by liquefying it and bringing ships, which is much more complicated, much more expensive. But as you know, there's a lot of attention right now to find alternatives to bring natural gas by ship to Europe. And Sinj is one of the gateways that is being looked at because there are not enough terminals in Europe to receive LNG ships. And there won't be in the near future because LNG's life is more or less temporary, so it doesn't make sense to build LNG terminals for 30, 40 years when LNG is not going to be around maybe for such a long time. This is why it's important to use the LNG terminals that exist today. Interestingly enough, the Iberian Peninsula is where you have the most concentrated LNG terminals. Mostly in Spain, there are 6, actually 7, there were 6, and now they open up to 7 again, and 1 in Portugal. So very likely we'll take a part in this LNG supply field. And the other one is grain. Even though Russia and Ukraine are relatively small players in terms of the global GDP, they are major exporters of grain. And this has disrupted the market. And as you might imagine, now you have to go to other origins that are further away, so the freight rates have gone up, and there's not enough capacity because this uses more ton miles, and this is a disruption that is evident in our eyes, that all these geopolitical factors, one or the other, is going to be determine the future, and it's unpredictable. Nobody knows. All right? And with this note of unpredictability, I want you to think about what innovations you can take. Right? Thank you.
For the topic, learning experiences, we call Manuel Batista from Enid, Portugal.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I will not talk about the challenge. I will talk about some learning experiences that we have here in FNH. Today we talk about main trends in maritime transport and logistics. These main trends are related with the complex transformation in shipping, as Professor Valentina had said. If you look at this picture, we see that the ports and all the logistical chain are become more like a technological hub. I think it's a technological hub with automation and the digitalization of the current process and traditional process. And also we see that here, we see that ports and logistical chains are interconnected with all stakeholders. This reality and this change and this transformation must be integrated in our academy, and we must be integrated in our academy to prepare the future workforce. I don't think that the current education systems are oriented with the four industry goals. So we have many challenges to bring this challenge to our academy. First, we must identify and then understand and follow these complex problems that we've been talking about today. Then we must integrate and work on these real and global problems. I think the third challenge is have research that combine sectorial knowledge and sectorial knowledge and technological solutions. We must develop the 4 types of skills. They are related with the industrial revolution. They are the solving problems, self-management, work with people and technology and use and development. This challenge is difficult for us to get a solution for these problems. But we can rethink what we do here in our academy and become more interactive, become more open to the outside, and connecting with the industry and the society. Today, I will bring you an example of this collaboration. The airship project, then Marina will present the final solution, but we have another kind of project that we can involve academies and some companies. We have the project since 2015. We have this academy project with MSc. This is a very business company, as you know, and we have a project that are dedicated to the maritime transport. But my focus today is the airship project. The airship project have 3 companies, Mauer, Lousa Consulta Mar, and 2 universities, ours, and Reykjavik University. This is a grants project, and I will talk about our involvement in this project. We have two scientific and academic community involved in this project. Our partners are Sport and Logistics and our Research and Development Center. This program is an example of collaboration between our institution and companies, the companies that I have. For us, it's been inspiring participating in this project because it allows improvements in our education and also our research. In terms of research development and innovation, it has been possible for professors and students. We also made some improvements in our syllabus with the introduction of these real problems, and we changed a little bit our methodology to bring to our institution pilots and digging labs. This project could also provide data for the elaboration of rate index, key performance indicators, data analytics, and the maritime trends. Our students, the students who are involved in this project, are from underdegree courses in port management and transport and logistics management. They test different scenarios of the tool. This is a tool that aims to digitalize all the charging process, and our students test different scenarios in a logical of one-job training. Of course, they develop new skills, and they also improve their knowledge about the charging process and the digital position and shipping. Right. In this project, we have many different experiences. We involve teachers, we involve students, and we also create and disseminate information and knowledge. One example of this sharing and this dissemination was the webinar that took place here in 2021. And it involves many people, as you can see here. The national institute responsible for this kind of projects, professors, sector expertise, and they bring us the main trends, of course, and also information about the technology issues that we've been talking today. This project also was presented as a case study and in two different academic events. One took place in Norway, in the beginning of this year, and the other one is a conference, international was a conference in that in Palermo, Italy. It was possible for us to share the way that we work with our students and the involvement that our institution has with these companies. We have results not only involved with the students, they of course they learn about more this kind of business, but for us as a teacher it was very good too, because we produced two indexed scientific papers. On the left side, we have one article that was have the collaboration of our institution and the University of Aveiro, and it was dedicated to the methodology that we use here in this project. And the other one have the collaboration of Reykjavik University with Marcel, and was focused in data analytics in shipping industry. And of course, the data that we can that came from the issue project. These two academic articles was integrated in a book. Professor Valentina said before talking about this book, the launch event took place here in May of this year. And this book is a handbook of research on applied data science and artificial intelligence in business and industry. And as Professor Valentina said, it's free. Some articles are free, and you can get. Today we have the final conference of this project. We are here to talk about main trends in maritime transport and logistics. As you can see, we have many different people, many countries involved. Not here in this stage, but only assisting in this conference. I will finish my past presentation with this picture. We have our team, our units team with Part of Marble team. But I think the strong idea is this triangle that we have here. This triangle resume our process in this project.
airship. Here we are seeing the charter, the broker, and the agent that instead of using one-to-one relationship and connections through email or phone call as it is working today, they are all connected to this cloud service, to this cloud software in order to collaborate and to give information. So at this point, what we are seeing is that the broker can give the information that he has about the positions list, and the positions list can be automatically have matching with the requirements of the charter. And this way, we can reduce some time spending back office procedures, like trying to find in the 2,000 emails positions list a correct position to perform this transport. And this is one of the things that the ship want to solve. But in fact, what I am showing here in this slide is an example of a contract that can be, for example, if we think about an importer or exporter of grain or dry bulk, and he needs to be supplied. He needs a cargo, a quantity of cargo during the year, and they will create a contract of affreightment that says that we will need a total quantity of 200,000 of metric tons of cereals, like wet or hot. And then this cargo will be delivered during this year under this contract of affreightment. The contract of affreightment defines the ports, the load ports and the discharge ports, defines also the cargo quantity, the shipment quantity. For example, if I'm talking about 200,000 metric tons, I can say that I will deliver this quantity during 10 shipments, for example. And also the terms of the contract, the lay time, and the operations time of the discharging and the charging operation. What you see here now is a charter parking model, where instead of a multiple trip journey, we have a single journey and a single contract to deliver an occasional service to the charter. So the charter needs a specific quantity and creates a requirement, and the broker tries to find this matching position that will be in place to deliver the specific quantity of cargo. So, as you see here, this is the network of airship in one of the living labs, the Trio and Marship, that collaborated with us as a broker, and also the shipping agent and the ship owner. So one of the main requirements that we have in airship is to have an end-to-end process. So the charter can have access to his orders, contracts, voyage, in a simple way and a centralized way in one Linux system. Then the broker also can use this platform to receive the orders from the charter, to see and filter and find the best position inside this positions list in the system. Then the shipping agent that participates later during the voyage to consider, to introduce information in the statement of facts, in the laytime calcs, to watch the results of the laytime calcs, and then the ship owner that also has the opportunity to check the information regarding the orders and the contracts. After this, and emphasizing one of the main requirements in airship is the intelligent matching. As I told you before, the positions list that we are receiving, the positions list has the information about the vessels, but we also have the information about the requirements of the cargo. So we can make a match with this beginner rules about this kind of transport, and make a match, automatic match of these requirements and vessel. This way, we will reduce for sure the back office time spent on these procedures. Then we have the integration that we want to deliver in order to have to don't have the repeated procedures and back office procedures from the charter, from the ship owner, that if they have an ERP system, we can integrate with this solution and guarantee and ensure that the information that is in their own legacy systems is now inside Airship to turn this system into a unique and single solution. And final, the collaboration platform, because as you see, every stakeholder in this network can collaborate with each other with relevant information. So this is an illustration of our platform and how the different actors can connect with our platform, and even their legacy system, like terminal operating systems, port community systems, and this will bring value and more and more value to have, for example, relevant data analysis and KPIs. About the platform, and to get into one of these subjects once again, the end-to-end process wants to deliver a full view of the transshipping market, and it begins with the price picture and specifically the freight requirements. With the freight requirement, the charter is sending to this market, to this platform, what it wants to have transport, and then the market search, where the requirements and the vessels inside the system are making a match to execute the trip, and then the freight negotiation, where after a matching, it is needed an interaction from the broker or the charter and the ship owner to define the terms of the contract, to determine also the value of the freight rates, and finally to conclude and execute the contract, sign the contract. And this is the moment of transition between the pre-picture and the post-picture. In the post-picture, we are talking about the voyage itself, with the voyage preparation, with the, for example, when we are talking about a contract of affreightment, we are talking about a contract where you have multiple voyages, and every single voyage is under a charter party. And to execute this voyage, it is needed that the charter says that what time and where is going to be to load the cargo. So this is about voyage preparation. Then the voyage execution, where we can monitor the events on the loading port and the discharge port. And then the voyage completion and analysis, where we are calculating the late time calls and delivering this information to every stakeholder that needs to have access and right to this information. About the intelligent matching, and to show you what are we talking about when we say so. This is about what we are seeing in this slide is a screen with the requirements, the orders that were published by the charter, and then what we see on the other, in the blue one, it is the matching positions for this specific requirement. And here, as you can see, it is an intuitive and comparative, on an easy way to the charter or to the broker to check the screen and see what is the vessel that he wants to choose by the flag, Europe build, what is the deadweight tonnage, what is the laycan of this vessel, and also by integrating some other information that we heard about during this conference, like the ESG indicators that we want to integrate to add value and to make a decision making more accurate to the charter. So here about the integration, we are providing a 3-level integration. The basic one is the one that all the users are making the manual input of information. Then we have the medium. This is the level that we achieved during this project. It is a one-way integration with the back office information that the users have inside their email. So through this integration, we were able to prove that if we have a specific positions list, a specific structure, we can integrate with our system, providing to the broker, for example, most easier way to check, to filter, to and to search for a specific position or specific requirements inside the platform. And then the maximum level, the high, with a full and two-way integration with back office system, like an ERP, as you heard about, for example, SAP. So about the integration, this is a diagram that seems to show the positions list that we are integrating in the system and presenting in this structured way inside the platform. This does not happen when you have the information inside an inbox of an email, because the information comes in so many different ways in an unstructured way. So this is this brings much value to the broker and for him to be able to search and to filter the main requirements of position. Then the fact that we are providing a collaborative platform where you see that all of these stakeholders are together inside this platform. So about the innovation challenges. During the period of this project, we heard a lot that phone calls and message are essential. This is something that will not change for the next years. It will not happen for the next years for sure, because this type of communication is needed very much for the charters, brokers, ship owners to pull the information and also to give and to demonstrate the hurry and the urgency of those matters. So what we aim to develop inside the system is to combine all the digital procedures that we have and to have the structured information and the process with a more personal and instant message channel where every stakeholder that are inside the same community can communicate in a more informal way. And also we must be sure that all the messages are encrypted. Then another subject that we heard about during this morning, ESG indicators. The decarbonization, as George told before, for the world fleet is one of the biggest challenges today. Also the energy efficiency improvements, new technology and low or zero carbon fuel, and also the goal to the IMO's goal to reduce emissions by 50%. In order to achieve or to take into consideration those topics, we are talking with a company that is Scope, that has a platform that is called Ship Review, where with a really big database of ships, and where they provide also many interesting indicators like the energy efficient design index for existing ships and for new ships, and also the carbon intensity indicator. With an integration like this, we are also able not only to provide information about the ship particulars, but also about the voyage emissions that the specific match is emitting during the journey. Also the CII and the EEXI indicator. And this is a diagram where we show that this is an important indicator, and all the ship owners must be concerned about this to have an attained value below the required EEXI value in order to be in order to accomplish the green shipping and to answer to the final user concerns in this green shipping. Some final considerations about this innovation challenge that we are embracing. This is a very complex environment and business. We noticed that it is also conservative, depending on personal, strong and confident relationship for many years. They have a big issue with informal and unstructured data, and also lack of transparency, because when we are talking about this information flow running through emails and phone calls, there is no trace of this information, there is no historic. It's very difficult to find the information that already happened a week ago or yesterday, so it is to digitalize the process like this will bring for sure more transparency and structure to the process. So we still need business experts and rules to support the decision making under this platform. And also to turn this a collaborative platform, we will need to find a major driver for digitalization inside the transshipping market, because there is no, at this point, there is no trigger to do so, and also an innovation plan inside this organization, because the stakeholders that we work, the operations can even recognize that this is a benefit, but the board or the administration of these companies are not aligned, or they don't have an innovation plan inside these companies to work on this and to get a platform like what we are trying to bring to the market. And also the information segregation and security, that is a main topic that we must deliver, because it is very important to have segregation of information inside this business, and also the security concerns, like what Marcel told us minutes ago. And so thank you very much.
This is an unexpected honor. I was asked to close the conference. I'm going to do it very quickly because we are past lunchtime. And I'll start by congratulating Solomon. I think they put together a really fantastic event here. Hopefully you gained something from attending it. I have to congratulate the team of eShip, excluding myself. But the team of eShip has done a terrific job. I mean, I don't know if you realize how complex the charging transactions are, and it hasn't changed for 300 years. And it's very difficult to put it in a digital form in a way that's workable. And they have done a remarkable job, I say. But last but certainly not least, I want to
to thank you very much for your presence, and hopefully we'll see you soon again. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you for your presence.